All right, we are at the top of the hour, and we definitely want to make sure we have as much time as possible to connect with everyone. So, thank you guys so much for being with us. We are Tailored Fundraising. I am Jenny, the coaching manager here. Joining me are Kylie Hawkins. He's our CEO, and Royce and Susie are coaches with us. And we just, like a lot of other people, recognize, man, we need to have this conversation of how do you continue to do partnership development in the middle of a pandemic. Obviously, it's new to all of us, so we're not coming to you as experts in raising funds in a pandemic, but we are coming to you as people who care about partnership development deeply and see this as a wonderful opportunity to connect and to encourage and to remind people of the importance of the gospel. So thank you for being with us. We're going to start in prayer. Before we do that, for those that are just joining, want to point out two things for you. One, the chat in the bottom. You just see a little word that says chat with a message bubble. If you click on that, you can tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and any resources or encouragement that you want to share with people, please put in there. We'll put a couple of links in there as well for you guys to click on and look at. So this is just kind of where we can interact. In a webinar format like this on Zoom, we cannot see or hear you. So if you're trying to figure out where your camera is, where your microphone is, those are not options in this specific format. And so know that we can't see you, we can't hear you, you're okay. The other button to pay attention to is Q&A. So there's a box there. Any questions that you have, please put in the Q&A box. So there's gonna be a lot of chatter in the chat channel, so it can be easy to lose your questions. So if you have a question for the panel, put it in the Q&A box. It'll just help us organize that. And we're going to get through as many questions as we can within this hour. But let's go ahead and start in prayer. Kylie, would you mind opening us up?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Yeah, let's pray together. Father, we love you. We recognize your sovereignty. And I just thank you especially for this opportunity to gather with hundreds of your children around the world and come before your throne in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Father, we're humbled by what you've called us to do. And we're so thankful for your promises and for your presence with us today. I do ask that you would just meet with us during this time. I pray that you would bring clarity and wisdom. Pray that you would just allow good communication over this technology. I pray that you would encourage us through your truth and with one another. I pray for this time. I pray for those that don't know you or that are seeking you during this time of needing peace, needing hope. And I pray that you would use us to reach out to them and to share the wonderful news of your gospel with them in the coming weeks and months. Father, I pray especially as we follow you in obedience and trying to develop partnership and continue to raise up your church to take the gospel to the nations. Pray that you would give us wisdom in how to do that, even during this pandemic, even during this time of uncertainty. And in any future time of uncertainty, Father. So we just ask for your wisdom. We ask for your grace. And we thank you so much for your presence and your promises today. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. So again, thank you, Kylie and Royce and Susie, for being with us. This is pretty informal. We're just popcorn style, kind of go around and share. I just asked them, hey, be thinking about, what do you want to share with people? What is the Lord laying on your heart to just bring encouragement, tips, ideas to you guys? Because while we see a lot of people going, oh, should we pause everything? Our heart is really no. I mean, maybe if that's your specific situation, that this is a good time to pause. But in general, we see, yes, there are challenges, but God is still calling us to ministry work. God is still wanting to draw people close to him and to see the gospel spread throughout the nations. And so we want to encourage you guys, press into the opportunities that are here, still trust that he's going to provide, but our expectations may, have changed a little bit. So I'm just going to open it up to the three of you. I'm going to manage the chat and kind of, behind the scenes type of things. But yeah, I just want to open it up to you guys. What has the Lord been laying on your heart, or what conversations are you already having with clients that you want to encourage people with today? Yeah, Roy.
I'll jump in. Well, I've read a couple of devotionals lately that really have struck home with me. And one was that the amount of time we spend in developing intimacy with the Lord really shows where our faith is versus our fear. And those who are running now, it's because they have not had that intimate time with the Lord, and they've not spent time building a relationship with Him as a friend and as a father. And I think that this really gives us more time to not only pray and strengthen our spiritual armor, but to pray with and for others, like our partners, and to develop that relationship at a deeper level. And so I just want to encourage you to take this time in prayer. That was the word God gave me back in November last year for 2020. I tend to choose one word a year. And I can tell you, I had no idea why God gave me that word this year. But He said, I'm going to have you spend time in prayer like never before. And who would have thought that that time in prayer was because we are staying in place at home? But it really does give us a time to not only strengthen our relationships with partners and family and heal the broken relationships, but it gives us time to see the vision He has for us, because we can be used for His glory through this trial when people are running in fear and panic, and just be a beacon of light and hope to them.
Amen. Thank you for that.
Go ahead, Susie. Ladies first.
So I guess a couple of words come to my mind. I think of connectedness, in that I've been coaching a number of clients last week and this week, and they're all in different places, like so many of you are. Some are just questioning, do I sort of wait? What do I do during this hovering phase that kind of just went with the and we feel like we're in this holding pattern? What do we do? And I've had some clients say, I'm going to take the time to really prepare and think through who are the people that I do want to connect with, whether it's partners, future partners.
Hey, Susie, I'm going to stop you for a second. We can't hear you very well. Can you try to adjust that? Thank you.
Sure. Let me put it up louder. Can you hear me better now, Lindsay?
Let's go. No.
There we
Yes.
Go. Okay, I'm going to go that way. There's no other noises in the house, so it should be fine. So some of the clients I've been meeting with have, like you all, have been in situations where they're questioning, what do we do next? And some are saying, I want to just really prepare for when in the future there are some connecting pieces that we can have with either partners, potential partners, or even friends they haven't connected with in the past. And so they're looking through their names of friends and praying through, Lord, who would you have me begin to connect with? And as the first thing they do is they'll send a text or a Facebook message, how are you doing? How are you holding up? And there's that personal connection that's taking place. And then they'll ask, what can we be praying for you? And once again, that's connecting where people are in the same boat. And then sometimes they're having the opportunity to give an update about what God has been doing through the ministry, or about their plans to go to a future missionary site. So that connectiveness right now, people, it's really interesting. Last week, I think a lot of people were just trying to get their systems in place. Moms were at home with kids trying to work. Dads were with them. So everybody was sort of juggling, and it was sort of get organized. This week, what I hear is they're starting to get some rhythms. People are wanting to connect a little bit. I think next week in particular, people are going to want to connect even more because we'll have settled a little bit. And through Zoom and through texting and through FaceTime. You have to be sensitive, but people do want connections. So to me, I see this as a time where, as missionaries, we can reach out to our partners as well as our future partners and just really see how people are doing and minister to them and do some cultivation work.
Yeah, that's good, Susie. I like that idea. I think that's really true about how increase over the course of the isolation. So yeah, good. Um, yeah, I'm really interested to hear what questions you guys have. But I'll share a few things. As I was thinking about this, and I've been trying to gather as much information as possible from other organizations, from other ministries, and just sort of learn about what's going on out there. And there are kind of four things that I thought might be helpful to share with you guys. The first thing actually came from one of my pastors at the local church here in Tennessee where I live. And he shared that the Lord really just brought to him. He was reading through scripture. I was in Deuteronomy and came to the very end of it. And the Lord really just shared with him the scripture of be strong and courageous. And he talked a little bit about how the children of Israel had been on the verge of going into the promised land 40 years ago. They were at the same place today, still had the same giants, the same obstacles to face. But anyway, he really just talked a lot about how, for our church in particular, who have kind of been dealing with a little bit of challenging times even before this crisis, but to be strong and courageous. And the Lord commanded that of them, and just to really rely on his strength and allowing him to give courage. So, thing that I've thought about is just to really simple truth, but put faith in God and allow him to give us the courage and the strength that we need, and to expect that, and to just be strong and courageous. So that was the first thing. A little more practical. I know in myself leading an organization, if there's anybody on today who maybe leads a team or leads an organization, I think one of the things that has been key is to have a plan in place. So anything that you've experienced going through this, try to remember, try to develop a plan and go back and say, okay, if we're in this kind of situation again, here are the things that we want to make sure that we can roll out at the beginning or at the appropriate time, and have a plan. Over communicating, I know it's a very, very simple thing, but it is so true. You can't over communicate. You can't. So with your team members, even if it's just maybe your family and a few other partners who are with you on the ground wherever you are in ministry, over communicate, have a plan, maybe develop some systems about how you guys are going to stay in touch and what you're going to do as a leader during a time like this. I think the third thing for individual fundraisers, a couple of things. Number one, communication right now needs to be personal. It doesn't need to be as much about the organization, the brand, high-level things. It really just needs to be about you and about them. So just keep it really, really personal, dealing with this, what you're doing, maybe even challenges that you've had to deal with. I know one partner in specific, specifically to us and my family, she just had to fly out of Southeast Asia 3 days ago. And when I got that communication, I was like, whoa, this is kind of late to be doing something like that. Like, are you sure it's not a better idea to just kind of stay where you are and figure this out? And so, I was concerned. She was on my mind. And then thankfully she got back to the States and she's home and everything worked out. But it really was just about her and the personal things she was dealing with. So make it about them, make it about your partners. Like Susie mentioned, this is an excellent time to be ministering to them. That's your job as a leader. You know, it's not to just allow them to provide funding so you can do what God's called you to do. It is about together you leading them in what to do together. And so partnership is a two-way street. Um, Feed back into them, get to know them. I mean, I think most of us have more time on our hands now than we did a couple of weeks ago. So I would get highly, highly personal. I would write a unique email or a letter or some every one of them. You know, maybe there's a couple of paragraphs that you just copy and paste, but I would definitely have some personal material in all of it. Ask them how they're doing. Start a prayer list. Get to know them better. You know, what are their families doing? All kinds of stuff like that. So um, make it personal. Make it about partners. And then the last thing I would say is this is a great opportunity to learn. Um, you know, this whole COVID-19, this thing will be over at some point, but it won't be the same. So it's going to be over, but it won't be the same. The world is going to change probably in some kind of fundamental way because of this global experience. And so um, maybe take some time and think about what's happening and what might happen and what can I learn right now that I can use down the road. I had with some family about how just local businesses and churches and all kinds of organizations and individuals were adjusting. And we were talking about how, you know, we were almost sort of betting, like, I bet that's not going to go back to normal. That's going to stay the way that it is now because it's, you know, people have been forced to do it in a different way. So if there's anything like that, maybe it's the way you communicate with partners. Um, I don't know. You know, it could be any and related to your experience, but take the time to learn. This is really a unique time, and you can't go back to this once everything kind of gets back to normal. So um, be strong and courageous. Put your faith in God and allow Him to make you strong and to make you courageous. As a leader, over communicate and have a plan. Individually, make it personal. Communicate personally about you, about them, and then make it about them, feed into them. And then lastly, take the time to learn. You know, try to figure out something that you can use down the road in the midst of this. So those are some of the things that I've just been thinking might be able to share with you guys. So would love to hear some of your questions. Jenny, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've got lots of questions coming in. Just as a reminder for those of you who joined a little bit later, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Click on that and type in any questions that you have, and we'll just systematically start working through those questions and letting the panel answer. Love what's happening in the chat. Lots of people sharing resources. Key, thanks for being with us. She shared daily journal, you know, just like journaling what's happening in this season. I loved, you know, Kylie mentioned just that personal communication. Be mindful right now that everyone is feeling the effects of the pandemic. So, you know, I've been getting some lots and lots and lots of newsletters, like I'm sure all of us have, on what COVID-19 is doing to their community. But when they don't acknowledge that my community is also going through the exact same thing, it makes me feel like they're out of touch a little bit. So be mindful as you're sharing what's happening, acknowledge that the person reading the newsletter is probably going through the same thing. Now, here in Nashville, we just got the mandate, stay home. You know, yes, they've been kind of closing things off, but yesterday was officially stay home. Everyone stay home. So that's happening all around the world. So acknowledge that these things are happening to your partners as well. Experience, you know, has been for you. So I just wanted to share that one piece as the reader, you know, there were times I'm like, oh man, they miss an opportunity to really connect with what I'm experiencing as well. So just be sensitive to that. I want to encourage you guys that in this time, yes, we absolutely want to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have, you know, finances are unstable. But the reality is a lot of people are then realigning their financial priorities. So you're going to see a really big shift in where people are putting their finances. And don't miss out on the opportunity to connect them to something that's gospel centered. So you're going to have people who, oh, suddenly all of these extra things don't seem important, but you know what is? Building the kingdom of God. And so don't assume that everyone is going to start pulling out, that no one's able, to give financially. This actually could create an opportunity where people are more interested in being connected to ministry. There are also people out there who are financially secure and they want to pass on that security and that blessing to other people. So we have lots of stories just from this last week of people who have actually gotten large gifts or lots of new partners because they have that perspective of, oh man, cure and moving forward. So don't always assume the worst. Yes, be sensitive. Yes, acknowledge, hey, I know this is, an unprecedented time for all. Still make clear that there's a need. The need has a way, right? The call that God has placed on our lives to invest in growing the kingdom has not gone away. That's still there. So share that with people openly, honestly, vulnerably, and acknowledge, yes, this is an uncertain time, but invite them to pray about being a part of this mission. So I don't think that this is a time where we have to stop asking. I think we still ask with the sensitivity of, hey, we know this is a crazy time. We're praying for you. We're praying for our community, but there is still a need. Are you interested in being a part of it? Do you want to trust God with us now more than ever? Right? That He is our provider, that He is our strength, that all that we do is in Him. Now we get to really test our faith, right? So as coaches, we're constantly saying funding is a tiny part of partnership development. Now we really get to test that out if that's true. If we believe that funding is only a tiny part, then now more than ever, we get to test that out because we believe it's about relationship. We believe it is about connecting people to what God is doing in the world. Since we can still do that, we can still connect. And like Kylie said, for some of us, we've got way more time than we've ever had before. For some, not so much, because now they got a house full of kids that they don't know what to do with. So not the case for all of us, right? Some are like, oh, now I'm a homeschool parent. But yeah, Susie, go ahead.
Chime in with that. So it's interesting. I've coached a couple of clients, and one client, he specifically said, okay, Lord, who do you want me to minister to? And he had some pilots that were his partners. And those were the first people he called.
Wow.
And that was a blessing for him. In fact, he's got kids at home, tying in with what you said, Jenny, that are all crazy. And so what he does to the garage, or he goes to his bedroom and he paces and just does 5, 10, 15-minute texts and calls to people. And the amazing thing is people have been so responsive because they know he cares. And he just phone. The other thing, this cracks me up. He and his wife have a little old lady they take care of. She ran out of toilet paper. So they took toilet paper over, and one of his partners texted and said, hey, you can tithe toilet paper now. And I just thought, even during this stressful time can really minister.
Yeah.
So those little touches can make a big difference. One other thing I also want to mention, Pete and Kate asked this question. I think it's a good one. They said, we were just about ready to drop our introduction letters, and we're not wanting to be, we want to be insensitive at this terrible time. What are your thoughts in actually asking for partnership in this dicey time? We have some opportunities. We don't want to leave them hanging. So that's a great question. And I have some other clients that are in that same boat. So what I'm telling them right now, wait a little, prepare your letters, get them ready, pray through your list, wait just a little bit. And if you're going to do that letter, do what I said, make it very personal at the very top, make it very short. And we just want to touch base and see how you're doing, but also let you know what amazing things God is doing during this stressful time, because people want good news, right? They want
that light. Yeah, Nathan and Liana just shared that they got $200 in new monthly commitments. In less than 6 hours this week, right? So God's moving in people's hearts to say, connect to ministry. Divert your resources into ministry work. So let's provide that opportunity. Jen, I know you put in the chat that your global organization said pray over Psalm 91. I got that same. My dad texted me and my siblings and said, right now, everyone, open up Psalm 91, read it out loud over your household. What a great thing to do with your partners. Hey, everyone, right now, open up your Bible, Psalm 91, read it out over our households and our nation and our cities. Think of ways that you can encourage your partners right now through this time. So don't stop partnership development, right? Just get creative and figure out what it looks like in this time. So, okay, so let's get to some of our questions here. Let's see. Emily said, how do I best interact with my monthly givers right now? I was thinking about writing them all handwritten notes. I'm so thankful they're continuing to give. I touched on that a little bit, but yeah, want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I think handwritten notes, again, something that's very personal, something that just communicates that you sat down and spent some time thinking about me, and communicated that. And I think this is the value of that. Okay, so as I've been reading through some of the questions and hearing some of the pre-questions that were sent before we got on, a lot of it is about timing. A lot of it is about being sensitive and not wanting to be. And so I get all of that, but I think the one thing that I would want to say specifically about fundraising is that, kind of like what Jenny said, that the fundraising is such a small. When you feed into your partners or even your potential partners right now, when all this goes away and you come back around and it's sort of business as usual, that's going to pay dividends. All right. So this isn't just about the money. All right. But one of the best things that you can do to actually fundraise once this all sort of comes and goes is to really right now just spend the time to think about them and communicate that and to thank them for this and staying with you. Really, that, and I think it was Susie or Royce, I forget, talking about staying connected. Try to intensify the relationship with them, and that will pay dividends financially down the road. So again, it's not all about the money, but if you want something right now to do that's going to benefit the fundraising aspect of your role, I would say absolutely it's investing in the relationships. So yes, thank them. Take some time, write a personal note or a personal email. That's an excellent thing to do. And just really, help them understand, I'm thinking about you, as Jenny said, I know that you're going through the same things that I'm going through, that kind of thing. So yeah, just take the time and really just enjoy getting to know them a little bit better and pouring into them.
Yeah. And then Royce, I know you have some things to share. And I also would like you and Susie to speak to the many questions around, but I need new partners. So what would you say about those who do need new partners during this time as well? So Royce, go ahead and share what's on your heart.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to piggyback on what Kylie said and say to intensify those relationships, because that may not happen now. I just heard a testimony this morning that a pastor who was raising his young family was faithful and lived well below the poverty line for 6 years to serve a church. And all of a sudden, one of the church members grew a business to $2.5 million and tithed on that business. And the pastor got all of his past due salary that the church had promised to give him when he was hired. But it was his faithfulness in his calling that produced a delayed fruit long after it was planted. I'll let Susie speak to your question, and then I can add on if she didn't say something that's on my mind.
The question, just to clarify, Jenny, is if you're starting out or you're trying out to new partners, what's a good approach with that? Yeah. I think really prioritizing your list. Start with the people that you have the strongest relationship with. in the past with Tailored, we would coach what I call inclination, who would be most inclined to hear about your ministry, as well as capacity, who could be a generous partner. But right now, I think a relational base is really important. But I do think you can begin to reach out to people that are on your list that you don't know as well. It may take what I call ping pong. You may reach out through texting or Facebook messaging. It may take a couple of interactions to just see what's going on in their life. But I say definitely engage, because people are looking for connections. I'll give you an example. I mentor 2 single gals, and both of those gals I talked with over the weekend, and they are in their apartments. They're working from home, and they are lonely. And so there are people out there that really do want connections. And there may be some people on your list, some college friends, some people, high school friends from the past. This is a great time. This sounds crazy, but it is sort of a great time to reconnect with people, because people want relationships. And then tying in with that, once you do connect, you can definitely share about your ministry, because that's the key thing in your life. You just want to be sensitive to where they're at. So get a little background, but then definitely be bold. And if people really have a heart for missions, invite them to join your team. They may not be able to join right now, because they may have to sort of wait and see how the economy sort of flattens out a little bit, but they may join your team right away. And I'll give one last example. We have a small group, and we all, with our small group, met. They're all retired, working and retired couples, but we had a Zoom meeting last week because we couldn't meet as a group. And we had 4 couples in the group that said, you know, if we get something from the government because of what's happening economically, we've already decided we're giving that away. That's a tithe for us. So people do have reservoirs or pockets that they do want to give back to the Lord.
Yes. And the best way to know if it's a good time to talk to someone is to ask them, right? Don't assume, don't think like, don't make a decision for them. Ask them. Let them tell you if it's a good time. Let them decide if this is a conversation they want to have right now. If now's not a good time, right? We acknowledge that. Hey, I know it's really crazy right now. Here's what we're doing. Here's the ministry. We're looking to raise funds. Would you be interested in talking about this? Let them answer and go from there. If now isn't a good time, reach out later. But this requires you to get real organized. So if you have not been organized before now is your time to shine, because you want to be keeping track of those relationships, because that is good stewardship, right? It's good stewardship to manage those relationships well, and to be looking at, okay, who said later? What does later mean? Okay, maybe 2 months. All right, mark your calendar or set your task reminder, whatever that looks like. But follow up with people. Maybe we have the conversation now. We go ahead and meet. We talk about the ministry, present the need and the vision. We invite them to be a part of it. But the financial decision comes later. Hey, we want to go ahead and connect, because great opportunity to connect with people who are probably desperate to have conversations with people right now and have that connection. But we're not going to talk about funding right now. It's like, I know that, things are really uncertain for you right now. We wanted to still connect, but we're going to follow up with you in a couple of months, once things have stabilized, and see where you're at.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of tag onto that. I think this is a unique time, because maybe some of our other coaches might give me some better advice here. I think usually, as Jenny said, be proactive and just asking them, is this a good time to, talk about how you can partner with this ministry or something like that. I also think that now is a unique time where, you're not at a fork in the road. It's okay to maybe lengthen some of those relationships and invitations to partner, kind of like what you were saying, Jenny. It's okay to sort of gauge, their inclination and their interest, and then circle back around after a few weeks or something like that. And again, it really depends on the partner. But it may not be the best time to sort of ask for yes or no's, or commitments or non-commitments, that kind of thing. Partnership is really a whole lot of things, and it's a whole lot of steps. And it's about us leading them through those steps. And it's okay to lead them through some appropriate steps now and wait, rather than saying, I need to do it all or I'm not going to do anything. So
And may I add to that? There was a person I was coaching that had been in ministry for about 20 years. And he said that he had neglected thank you notes and newsletters over the last couple of years. And really, this gives us a chance to see how holistic partnership is, that it's not just about the finances, but it's about real concern for those people and building relationships and praying over them and praying for. And so just like Jenny said, as we opened up, Jenny or Kylie said this, that if we truly believe in what we're doing, and partnership is a holistic approach and not a financial ask, then we can get through this time. And it certainly freed up time for thank you notes and genuine connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook messages, text messages, stuff like that, that's just short, quick, straight to the person. Great time for that. So let's speak to the technology piece, right? Because that's a big thing right now. Okay, well, suddenly we can't have in-person meetings. Should we send physical letters? What does this look like when we can't gather in person? What tips or advice do you guys have for how to have those connections now?
My initial thought is texting first is a great way to just see if people are responsive. If you have their phone numbers, that tells me if you have their phone numbers, you can connect with texting. You'll get a quicker response. Facebook Messenger is great. I just received 3 Facebook messengers from relatives I haven't talked to in a while. So a private message through Facebook Messenger can be great. Colin, hi Colin, just from Prague, message or gave us a question. Can we use FaceTime live to do a video or some kind of video? And I think that's a great way to do it. I would encourage you, if you're going to do that, prepare ahead of time, be sensitive, in your messaging, and make it very personal and relational and authentic and genuine. Because this is sort of a serious time, nothing jokey. I mean, you can have humor, but I would make it could be an update, it could be creative, but and very biblical, strong biblical messaging.
Yeah, I would add, yeah, absolutely. Use technology, experiment with it maybe a little bit. Maybe this is one of those learning opportunities to where you always kind of stayed in your lane and did what, your behavior was pretty predictable. Your donor's behavior was pretty predictable, but now it's a chance to learn other things. I think that one of the things that I would recommend is maybe have a plan B and a plan C as it relates to different kinds of technology, because again, about being sensitive in a two-way street. Certain people are going to be very comfortable with certain types of technology and other people aren't. So you don't just want to limit your ability to connect and substitute maybe a live meeting or a more personal meeting through technology with only one thing. But yeah, if people are comfortable using, video conferencing tools, then do that. Certainly any kind of live video or thing like that. And even just straight up phone calls, just having a live conversation, Susie, like you were saying, people have time. Just get away and take a walk while you're chatting with a partner or something like that. So absolutely. I think it's a good time to maybe experiment with ways to use technology to replace live meetings. Have a plan B and a plan C just in case somebody's not comfortable using something. You don't want to communicate that, if we're going to stay in touch over the next month or two, then I'm here. And if you can't get here, then I'm sorry, and then, go old school, just pick up the phone, all kinds of different ways to connect with people. So
I do want to let you guys know, after this recording is going to be put on YouTube and open to just sharing publicly. So we'll make sure you guys have a link to that and just share it with anyone who wasn't able to join the call today, anyone who really just needs to be encouraged in this way. We want to make sure that we make that public for everyone. I'm also going to have lots of you sharing resources in the chat. So I'm going to pull a resource list We'll attach that to the YouTube channel as well to just list out here are the resources that you guys shared with each other. We're not endorsing them. We don't have any relationships with them, but guys for sharing those different resources. So keep that up. I'll get all of that organized and make it a lot easier for you guys to digest and check out. So don't feel like if you lost something, it's gone forever. We'll get that organized for you and make sure that you get connected to all of those resources. All right, let's look at some more of our questions. So many of you are kind of asking really similar questions. So as I feel we've kind of already spoken to that, I'm marking that, but didn't think, oh, it wasn't answered. Feel free to ask again. But Jeff, he asked, if you thought this might be helpful, sending a message, something like this. He says, I know we're all navigating in uncertain times and was thinking of you today. How are you doing impacted by coronavirus? I'm taking time to pray for you today and wondering if there's anything specific I can pray for. What do you guys think about that kind of message?
I think it's awesome. It's great.
I do too.
Yeah, communication is often seen as one way, right? It's like I'm sending a newsletter and I'm reporting to you. And so as you guys are very familiar, you get very few because it's just seen as reporting. So when you can create a space where it's clear that you're looking for something from them, that you just want to hear how they're doing, how you can be praying for them, that makes a huge difference, because then it's seen as two-way communication. But if I start talking about myself and then I'm gone, how are you? People are way less likely. It's just, as a missionary, we've just created this culture of I report to you and that's it. So if you want that interaction, don't talk about yourself first. Reach out. How can I be praying for you today? How is your family? Wonderful, wonderful way to care for people and show them that this is a two-way relationship. So absolutely love that. Megan, hey Megan. Gosh, how long ago did we work together? It's been a while, but love you guys. All right, so these are great ways to stay engaged with current partners. Would you recommend waiting to fundraise until this pass? If not, how would you approach giving when there's so many uncertain times? So we've spoken to that a lot. There was someone who had also asked if they haven't even started fundraising. Where do you kind of see this going for someone who hasn't even started? Because that's, again, kind of a different segment, right? Like not just looking for new partners, but fresh, like super fresh into fundraising. What might that look like to start in this season?
So I just had a couple that I just met with right before here that are brand new, and they're going to the Czech Republic. I'm saying that to Colin. But they said, where do we start? I said, the first thing you want to do is write out your calling stories, because before you even meet with people, they're thinking, why in the world would a retired couple want to go to the Czech Republic? So write out your calling story. That's a simple thing you can do, or the beginning of maybe the needs that your ministry is trying to address with some individual stories, or if you've been to a specific location and you have an impact story that you want to share, just a simple 2-minute story. You're calling a need or an impact that as you begin to reach out to people, they may ask you about your ministry and you could share a story.
And I see similar questions in a chat. What if we haven't started yet? What if we're 30% of the way through? What if we've been postponed in being mobilized? And I think that all the panelists on this today have said similar things, and that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really about praying and seeing where the Lord guides you. And some people are giving their tax returns or their business profits from last year to further the kingdom in this hard time. And others are going through a hard time and they're uncertain on whether or not they'll have a job next week or next month. And so the best advice I can give is to actively listen, not only to the Holy Spirit, but to your potential partner, and see where they are at.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Now, what about for people who they were ready to go and now they're not? And that date's been pushed back. And it's, things are kind of indefinite, right? It's like we don't have a new date. What would you say to them and how they can communicate that to their partners?
Susie, would you like to weigh in?
You were watching the nonverbals, Royce, I could tell. I'm trying not to hog the microphone. I was waiting for Kylie. In that situation, I'm going to throw out my ideas. Team, tell me what you think, and everybody else, you can give your opinions too. I probably would say be really vulnerable and honest with your partners. And, we were so excited to go, and now we're put on hold. We need you guys to pray with us and just be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. Honest, genuine, and sincere. You know, it's not just about getting money. It's about, doing what God's called you to do together. And so, yeah, I think partners respond most effectively when it is a relationship, when it is honesty. And sometimes that means not necessarily bad news, but something we didn't expect. And so communicating that actually shows that you value them, by being honest and just letting them know where you are and what's happening, and then asking them to, continue with you guys or invite them to play the role that you need them to play. I will say a little bit of a different issue. Sorry, I've been distracted with questions because I was hunting down an answer to the, will the chat be included in the recording? Because I know a lot of us have shared our locations, and it will not be. So in sharing the recording, you guys don't have to worry about information that needs to remain secure being shared. So the chat is not included in the recording. Sorry, I was trying to hunt that answer down. So,
No,
but yeah.
good.
So
yeah, your names won't be showing, no information in there. It's going to be public except for just the resources. I'll pull those out as a list individually, separate from your name. So no names will be on there. You're safe. Yeah, but in regards to that, how do you communicate as Kylie continue their partnership? If you are able at this time, we ask that you continue your partnership. Make sure that's really clear, because it might be really easy for people to go, oh, you're not going. Okay, then we'll stop our partnership right now, right? But if you just make that clear, would you please consider, if you're able at this time to continue your partnership so that when the doors, the borders do open, when everything is open, we're ready to go right away. So make sure that that's really clear. If you have current partners, you may even want to follow up with them individually. Check in with them. Hey, how are you doing? How are things financially? Are you still able to continue your partnership at this time? If you're not, know that we bless you, in your parting at this time. What a wonderful way to care for people and show them, again, hey, partnership development, tiny part is funding. And show them that you're sensitive to that, you're caring for them, and trusting that if they're not able to at this time, God's got this. God's got you. It's okay. There's someone else who he's got lined up, ready to reach out and say, hey, me. So trust that he is going to provide, and don't in fear not connect with people so that just in case they're going to stop giving. No, actually bless them in that process and say, hey, do you need to stop giving at this time? Right? Because we can trust that God does have this. He is going to provide. We don't have to act out in fear. So like Roy said, in everything, be praying, seeking God's direction. But know that he's going to take care of you. And if you're taking care, especially so if you're taking care of your partners as well. So be really sensitive to that. But in whatever transition you're in, invite your partners to pray into that transition. If you were doing campus ministry and now you can't, be on the campus and you're not really sure what ministry looks like, that's okay. You don't have to have it figured out before you communicate with your partners. You can share that with them and invite them to be praying with you for direction and how to make those connections. Maybe some of them have ideas that they could share with you. Maybe they're really great problem solvers. They're great strategists. Invite them to speak into that. What a great two-way relationship again. So open up the lines of communication to have those conversations. And it's okay to not have it all figured out. That's what our partners are there for as well, is to pray with us in this time. Okay, let's look at some more questions. Again, just as a reminder, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box. I've been trying, well, I think you guys have been doing good. But any other thoughts, encouragement, resources you want to share, definitely put that in the chat. I see lots of different apps that you guys are recommending to connect over video. And so lots of good, cheap options. So if you're phone calls, lots of great cheap options. Video chat, lots of great, cheap or free options. So share with each other, what you guys are using that you like. All right. While I'm sifting through questions, any other thoughts, Roy, Susie, Kylie, that you guys want to share?
I was thinking, going back to the over communicating, it always surprises us about what needed to be communicated, because we just it's second nature. And so, even going through this, I've thought, oh yeah, let's back up. Let's talk about some of the things that I assume, that people need to hear about how to fundraise during this time. So as you're just communicating and being honest with partners, again, balancing the investing in them and not just sharing everything about you, but when the time comes to share about you, just sort of try to take a step back and over communicate. Oh yeah, this is where I am right now. I'm not where I usually am, if that's the case, or this is what I'm dealing with. And just some of those things that may feel very, of course, this is what I'm going through. And yeah, this is what I've had to deal with, and just really kind of help people walk through stuff that you might think is very elementary, but just over communicate some of those basic things, keeping them in the loop. And then, sometimes that'll help really overcome some things that, as a person who isn't living through what you're living through in international ministry, I was just completely unaware of, because I've never thought about it. I've never experienced it. So just reinforces the over communicating. Back up, maybe think of some of the basic things that would be a good thing to just keep your partners in the loop about.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone had asked if they already sent their letters. They just sent their letters before all this hit. How should they move forward? Go ahead, Bruce. Yeah.
I think that's been spoken to throughout this webinar, that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but honoring your word to follow up on those letters, because you did say in there that you would be following up in the next few days. It makes sense to go ahead and do that. And then address the fact that it's a sensitive time. And if they don't feel like it's the right time to discuss financial partnership, that you want to pray with them or share scriptures, in some way encourage them, and that you completely understand waiting, as we are all in this together. And like you said, Jenny, being sensitive to understanding it's not just my community, it's yours too. Not being so disconnected that you don't address that.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, guys?
I have another comment that Abby said. Hi, Abby. With many churches moving to online sermons, could you send some of your partners a video message to encourage them? And I think that is a great idea. And it would just be another way to minister to your partners.
Yeah, we had someone, we did the same webinar on Saturday, created the same space for this discussion. And someone had suggested having a video, Brian, I think it was you, one of our coaches, like having a video that the church can stream, so even like continuing, like, okay, you can't speak at a church, but would the church be willing to show a 2-minute video where you can still talk about the ministry and still talk about what God's doing in the world and invite people to be a part of it? Especially churches who, maybe their giving has had to decrease or stop, would this be maybe something they would be open to? So again, learn technology, we get to explore this wonderful world that we've all been trying to figure out for a while. But videos can be a great way to, just record something and then send it on. We've got lots of people asking about this meeting over video versus waiting to do it in person. What do you see about the timing there? Is it better to wait until this is cleared up and they can meet in person, or should they take advantage of opportunities now over video chat?
Yes and yes.
That with yes and yes. Yeah, we are so lonely, not any of us in particular, but if you read through your Facebook news feed, people are isolated and lonely, and they want that connecting point. And this could be the perfect time to reach out on video while they're working from home and while they're committed to spending more time with relationships and priorities rather than the busyness of life.
Go ahead, Kylie. Everyone's ready to jump in. All right, Kylie and then Susie.
Susie's yes and yes, absolutely. I think it's, ask them, is this something you're comfortable with? Connect with video. Again, have some options in case you're familiar with a specific platform instead of something that you're used to. But yeah, I wouldn't sit on the sidelines just because I can't meet face-to-face. I would absolutely try to meet over video conference, ask them if they're comfortable. If they are, terrific. And if not, then stay in touch through other ways and meet face-to-face when the opportunity presents itself. So what do you think, Susie?
You answered my question.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, praying through it all, right? But when in doubt, ask the person. Let them tell you. Let them make the decision of if now's a good time or not. And if you're worried about people thinking this is insensitive, pray through that as well, right? Like we can adjust our language to be as soft as possible to recognize, hey, I don't want to be insensitive, but I also don't want to keep you from being a part of this, very real need if this is something to connect with at this time. So be sensitive in that, but also just praying through, okay, God, go before all of this communication, soften people's hearts, let them understand my intention here. If you are not a great communicator, steal everything from Paul in the book of Philippians. Just like literally any of that, copy and paste, because he's amazing, right? Philippians 4:17, it's not the gift that I seek, but the fruit that increases to your credit, right? It's a wonderful passage looking at how Paul communicates back to his ministry partners. So if you're trying to figure out how to have sensitive, follow Paul's example, it's wonderful. We are a couple minutes away from the top of the hour. I think some of us can stay on a little bit longer to continue to answer questions that are coming in. I do want to draw your attention to our website. I'm going to drop a link in the chat in just a moment, but if you are not a current client and you would like to connect with a coach, we're offering free 30-minute sessions for anyone who's not a current client with us, so that you can connect and, talk through a plan. If you just want someone to pray with you around this, do that. So I'm going to put a link in the chat here in just a second. Click on that, fill out this type form. So it's just kind of asking some basic information from you, but then we'll get you connected to a coach. Most likely it'll be Susie. She's kind of our primary one that handles those calls, but you may connect with any one of our coaches that are on our tailored team. And so we just want to make sure we create some space for you guys to have some one-on-one opportunity to think through this process, because I know we're not able to get to everyone's questions today. So thank you guys for being with us. Let me copy that. But yeah, we're going to just keep going through some more questions until we run out of time. But thank you guys. And on our website as well, I'll post that link. We have webinars that we do every single month for free. We may make some adjustments. I think May's is about fundraising events, but we may switch that to online campaigns in lieu of fundraising events getting canceled. So just check out that webinar list and join us for future webinars. So thank you guys so much. Just to check the panel, are you guys available to stay on for a bit more to continue answering questions? Okay, if you need to drop off, no problem. Thank you. Just, drop off anytime.
So,
okay, so go ahead.
Good question for the group. Question says, how would you recommend we maintain and build relationships with churches that we were thinking about onboarding as new partners, but have definitely been closed because of the virus, and they might be facing significant drops in tithing in the upcoming months.
Mhm.
That's really what I've been thinking.
Man, I'm trying to think of a good answer. I wish I could just say, I'm glad you asked, because this is what you should do. And I'm jumping on here because my local congregation, this is kind of our experience. As I shared when I opened about my pastor sharing from Deuteronomy, be strong and courageous is what God was asking the Israelites to do. It's what he felt God was telling him to do. And he was sharing that with our congregation. This is kind of where we are. I would say, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a church leader in that situation. I would say be sensitive. Understand, like Jenny said, it's okay to approach the church in this situation. So don't not ask because you already think that they're not going to be able to partner. That's step one. Don't not ask. Step two is it's okay if they say they can't partner right now. It's totally okay. That interaction right there of you sharing your calling and your ministry and them blessing you but saying, no, I don't think that this is an opportunity we can do right now, and then you saying that's okay, that's positive, that's healthy. That doesn't cost both people something. It's not a transaction that loses stuff, it actually gains stuff for both parties. So that's positive. It's okay to ask, it's okay for them to say no. And I would say again, it might just be a timing thing. If possible, minister to them. If possible, at least pray for them, stay in touch with them, relate to how that leadership is making decisions and dealing things right now, if possible. And then maybe at a different time, they would be able to partner with you. So, yeah, I'm acting like that's not a good answer, but like that, I was going to say that's the best I've got. But yeah, I think that's I think that's the appropriate biblical thing to do. Invite them to partner. Don't make the decision for them. It's okay if they can't partner right now. And then if any way possible, again, this isn't as much about the money as it is about the body of Christ being the interdependency, the body of Christ that we're supposed to be. So engage in that, take something from it, give to it. And then, leave the door open for them to potentially become a financial partner down the road if circumstances change. So I don't know. What do the rest of you guys think?
Great answer, Kylie. And I think our job is to walk in obedience and leave the rest to God. And when we're authentic and we're genuinely concerned for the other party, God will reward that in His time.
All right, let's tactical. So Jeremiah had said, you mentioned having a plan. What might that look like? When you think of, if you were to coach someone right now who's in the middle of this and say, okay, let's create a plan, what might be some suggestions you have that are a part of that plan? Yeah, Susie.
I wrote this down because I'm super practical in this stuff. So the first thing is get organized. What do you need? I'm going to throw it back to you with questions. What do you need to do right now to get yourself organized? Either organized in what you're going to share content-wise, or who you need to approach, who you're going to reach out to, and when will you do it? So there's those three components of getting organized, sort of getting a plan together, like Kylie said. Then you want to think through and experiment with devices. Find out, get yourself equipped on how to use different devices. It's Marco Polo, Google Meetups, whatever it is. Practice that a little bit if you're not familiar with it, and play with it. Use it with your family and friends first. Get some practical there. Then I would reach out with the device of your choice or combination of devices to specific waves of people. Put lists together. I have some clients that just like little sheets of paper and they carry it in their pocket and they just chip through the list. Others like it on an Excel spreadsheet. but get very practical with who and when you want to reach out to, and make it fun. This sounds crazy. If you're a relational person, pray and think, okay, Lord, I'm going to see what you do. Watch him show up as you reach out.
Yeah, I'm actually at the beginning of stages of this myself. My husband and I are making starting plan on a retreat center in Southern Europe, and so right now I'm updating my contact list. I'm reaching out to my Facebook friends and sending messages to say, hey, you were on our list when we were in Vietnam, but I don't want to assume that this ministry opportunity still interests you. So would you be interested in continue to stay on the list? And I'm just sending those Facebook messages one by one. I'm not doing any fundraising just yet. I'm obviously going to be doing that, in the future. But right now I'm just saying, hey, we don't exactly know all the details, but we'd love to keep you updated as God reveals the next steps. Are you interested in staying updated? So, I've got my spreadsheet with all my names, and I'm marking when I've reached out to them. I'm putting in green, whenever they've responded, and I have the most recent contact information. So yeah, like getting really, really organized. Brian Davis, you were asking, what's the best way to do that? You've obviously got your partnership tracking tool when we were working together, but what other platforms are there to stay organized? So there's a lot we could recommend. I'm going to put that in our YouTube post. I'll actually kind of list out, here are some resources that we recommend, instead of kind of taking time to get to all of that. But there are definitely ones that we've used or our clients have used that we've seen do really well. And of course, it just depends on your personality, but we'll list a lot of those resources to try to give you guys some things to look at. Royce and Kylie, other things that they can be using in their plan?
Yeah, in working with a client recently, we updated their stewardship plan, and it was a great time to see if they were touching base and had touch points with each of their levels of partners, from those only on their newsletter all the way up to major donors. And they had 4 touch points a year in this simple one-sheet document. And so it can be a great time to take a look at your monthly stewardship plan and allocate whatever number of hours you feel that it would take to touch base with them. I think they have around 85 partners, and they allocated 4 hours a month. So with as little as 1 hour a week, you can touch base 4 times a year on a personal level.
And think through, are there current partners that could actually increase at this time? If are there partners that, things are really secure, they are stable, or they're just like so trusting, like, oh, God will figure it out, that they want to increase during this time. That could be a great strategy, starting with your current partners and having them pray about increasing.
Yeah, I'm not the most tactical, concrete kind of person. I'm much more conceptual. So I'm trying to land this plane as much as possible. What does a plan look like? I would say everything that everybody said, absolutely. There's not many times in most organizations' fundraising experiences where they get to treat every individual as a major donor. And I'm speaking more from like a corporate standpoint, where we're talking thousands of people and all that stuff, just from a resource thing. But during this kind of situation, if you have the time, don't sort of measure success, or don't think about it in terms of dollars, but think about it in terms of relationships. Think about it as, okay, I've got 313 people on my list. Think, how do I maximize every one of them, all of the 313? And that doesn't mean get them to give. Maybe it means I haven't talked to that person in 19 months and they need to hear from me, and I need to pray for them, and I need to commit to maybe communicating with them 3 times in the next 6 months, whatever it looks like. But maybe think about success in terms of maximizing relationships rather than thinking about, just you might have the capacity now, like never again to really just, you know, invest in those people. So as you're dealing with your waves, as you get organized, I think about flow charts here. Like, okay, I did this with this person and this is how they responded. And so I do this and they respond this way, you know, whatever that looks like. Be intentional about it. Don't just leave it up to the system, but go back and say, okay, what about Aaron and Jenny Carr? Okay, well, this is what I did, but is there something else that I can do to really maximize my relationship with them? So I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
that's good. And don't feel like you have to start this process with everyone at the same time, right? You don't have the capacity for that. So just, you know, kind of identify small groups of people. Okay, this is the group I'm going to focus on this week. This is right. Kind of just like work through it in a more reasonable capacity, recognizing, okay, how much time do I have and how many people would I be able to like care for well? And just focus on that number of people instead of just trying to do everyone at once. Because yeah, I can send a Facebook message to everyone, right? Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy. Like I can send a lot of messages, but I can't actually interact with that many people whenever they respond. You know, I think I sent 20 and I was still sort of like, oh gosh, it took me like 5 days to find the time to update all of that information. So be really careful that you're not, you know, biting off more than you can chew. Start small and build up, you know, as you realize you have more capacity. Someone had asked if they've already connected with everyone they're close to, what does it look like to reach out to people that are kind of maybe the more those friend relationships, or maybe even growing your network in a season like this where you can't show up and talk to a small group, you can't show up and present to a church. What options might someone have of connecting with people on the fringe or new people?
Yeah, I'm going to throw one thing out there real quick because I think Susie and Royce probably have better ideas than I do. But, you know, as maybe some people aren't at work, or there maybe just some people who are feeling isolated, maybe this is a good time to ask a really close partner to help you with this. And you can actually sort of enlist them to help reach out to people on your behalf or even throughout their network. So get creative about, you know, if they have the time, if they're feeling like they'd love to connect, hey, this is really what I need to do right now. Would you be willing to help me? And actually, don't be afraid to ask for their help in actually sort of expanding the network. But
Yeah, I've often told people to think about your partner's spiritual gifts or natural personalities and where they can plug in to support you. Because oftentimes that skill set support can be equally important or more important than the financial support. And if there's someone that wants to make phone calls on your behalf all day, or send thank you letters on your behalf, or do graphic design on your newsletter, let them participate and let them feel like they are part of your ministry.
Or even someone who's a videographer, that you could send pictures, they could put a little presentation or some kind of a FaceTime, help you with FaceTime. I mean, there's creative people out there that want to help.
Someone from Saturday had asked about what about video chat fatigue, like for people who they're tired of having video conversations. What options might there be?
I think getting a piece of mail, a piece of snail mail that is a physical piece of paper or papers with ink on it is such a valuable thing. I'm a little old school in that I don't do it as much as I should, but I mean, that's like a treasure. You know, it's a relationship, but it's a physical treasure. People keep that stuff. So um, if possible, I know if you're international, this might be a little bit more challenging or more expensive, but I mean, if video chat is just getting tiring, then I mean, I'd like to believe there's something about a human being that gets sort of excited and ignited when you have to kind of use your own imagination to, you know, experiment or experience the conversation through a letter, through written stuff. So yeah, just sit down and write a letter. I don't know.
Yeah, I think an email is a great option as well. You know, we work with people on creating their presentation, but then having what we call a messaging brief, where it's like a, you know, written version of your presentation, but that's as concise as possible that you can email to people. And when I was trying to connect with people that literally like our schedules just would not line up. And so I was like, okay, you're really busy. Let me just email you this information. And I just asked in the email. I said, so, you know, here's all this information, you know, in order to continue to spread the gospel in this country, we are looking for 10 people to partner at $50 a month. Would you be interested in being one of those people? And I just did the ask in the email because that was actually the most convenient space to do it. And most people responded and were like, I'd love to, send me the information. So email can actually be another great option, but just be really clear on what is the mission, what is your strategy, what is your vision. Connect people to that impact that's being made, not just the money that's needed, right? Because it's bigger than the money. Someone, let's see, let me find it. Vicki and Kevin said, I'll be teaching partnership development next week. I think the one thing you stated today is relationships, and build relationships. Is there more? I would say when in doubt, ask. That's a big thing. You know, I say, if you aren't sure, ask. Just ask the person. Kylie, Susie, how about for you? Any other little nugget?
Sorry, I was reading another question from Matt. I know. Go ahead, Kylie.
No, well, I just said, yeah, it kind of echoes what Jenny said. Don't sit it out. Don't wait for, and then fill in the blank, because, you know, I think it's going to be hard to know when things are back to normal. Like I said, I think this is going to be over, but it's not going to be the same. So I think you might get caught in this, well, is now a good time? Well, can I start asking again? So don't sit on the sidelines. So yeah, be sensitive to where people are and what they're experiencing. But don't sit out because, you know, you're waiting for something to happen that says, okay, now I can actually do this again. Stay engaged. Keep, when in doubt, ask. Yeah.
And I was thinking too, you know, we're encouraging you to connect with people. And if you're an introvert, having some FaceTime, you know, platform meetings can be exhausting after a while. And we understand that. So you have to pace yourself, use your strengths. If you're a good writer, putting just little snippets of inspirational messages and texting them or email your partner, use strengths, whatever they are, to initiate.
The Walla Gambays have a very unique, well, probably not so unique, but you know, different perspective from what we've been talking about. And I know they've been connected to a coach, so that's great. But they have the opposite problem where they've overstayed their home assignment, right? So they aren't able to go back. They said, is it still important to get the financial aspect up to 100%? Kind of, you know, it's like that urgency in a sense is gone. We make it about relationship, but for new partners, it's person by person, individual situation. We want to be sensitive and not overly focused on the need for funding. Yeah, this is kind of a challenge with a lot of people, right? When that urgency is gone and that deadline is kind of unclear, what do you do in that little window of uncertainty? I guess my first thought is the nice thing is everyone's uncertain right now. So it's now no long situation. I think a lot of people understand that uncertainty, but yeah, how can they communicate with partners?
So just so I'm clear about the situation, it's the idea where I don't have that urgency of there's a goal line, and as soon as I get there, then something can happen. That goal line has been kind of erased or it's blurred, and so that urgency is gone. That's the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is just kind of using the situation and saying, you know, right now, um, for obvious reasons, and you can explain maybe some details, you know, we're not able to sort of pull the trigger when we hit there, but we want to be prepared and we want to be ready to be able to, you know, initiate things as soon as that's possible. So that's a little bit of urgency back, is, you know, we don't want to be in a situation where, you know, in a couple of months, everything's sort of back to normal, or at least we're released to behave in the ways that we were, but we still have to, you know, stay here and get that final amount of funding, or, you know, deal with those plans. You know, I think maybe even, I don't know, Jenny and Susie, you guys might disagree. I think even being honest with them and telling them about how much momentum and urgency is important, and you guys want to go ahead and kind of finish strong. You know, it's, again, say to them maybe some of the same things that we're saying to you, like, this isn't a time to just press pause on what God's doing around the world. You know, we understand if your situation's changed and things like that, but we want to, you know, continue to go ahead and build on the momentum we've had, so that when things are allowed, we can go ahead and just catapult into ministry. I don't know. That's some of the thoughts that I had.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that uh, during that waiting phase, it really helps to have partners that are giving, because then when you're ready to go, you fly. It's a springboard. And that their giving does, you can tell them their giving is going toward the impact of the ministry. So share what God is even doing. Get some fresh stories from the field, that maybe some of your team members or things need stories, or stories of what God is doing, and share that with them. So it's a vision-based giving, rather than, oh, we're sort of waiting for this transition.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, reminding people like there's still a ministry and there's still ministry opportunities. Um, and again, that looks like anymore, you know, maybe share what ideas you do have. And again, invite people to contribute ideas, invite people to be praying about how, you know, now we get to be creative, a little more creative in how we interact with people. And, you know, especially if you're in a space where like video chat isn't an option, you know, it's like, okay, what are our options? And so just be really honest with people. Right now, they're going to want to see that vulnerability, and they're going to want to know as well, like, what can you do? Like, are you thinking about this, or has everything just stopped? If you do not communicate, the assumption is going to be everything has stopped. You do want people to be in a position where they have to assume what's happening. You want to be communicating very clearly, here's what's happening, here's what we're thinking, here's what we're testing. Join us in praying, you know, for wisdom and direction. So you need to be the one making sure that you're staying in communication with people and updating them, even in the uncertainty.
Yep, that's an excellent point. I've gotten so many emails from retailers in my area telling me, you know, people that, to be honest with you, if they'd have asked me, hey, do you want an inbox from us telling us that this is what we're doing about the COVID-19? I'd be like, no, you know, but I didn't have to second guess. Oh yeah, you know, can I do this? Can I get that? You know, so absolutely. Great point. If you don't, people are going to assume that everything is just press pause for the next couple of months.
Yeah. My husband saw someone had posted to say, in case you were wondering who all had access to your email address.
Yeah, that's right.
We all now know.
Yep.
We've gotten emails from all of them.
Remember that Slurpee you bought 3 months ago from the gas station down the street? This is how they're handling COVID-19.
Yeah. Brendan is asking, would it be helpful to mass communicate this information? I'm gonna read into what you mean by this communication based on what we were just talking about, but I assume the changes in ministry. So if that's a wrong assumption, you know, let me know. But, you know, is it okay to mass communicate the changes in ministry?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's an efficient way to just let all of your partners know, hey, this is how we're dealing with this, maybe, we've been asked or we've had to do this or move or whatever. This is what we expect. And then this is still what's happening. We're still allowed to do A, B, and C, and we're continuing to do that. We're still, investing in partners and developing partnership. So we'd love to talk with you about that if that's something you're interested in. But yeah. And then the really personal stuff can be the personal conversations. How are you doing? All that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that being an additional layer to all the personal things, it's fine to just mass communicate that.
Yeah. Susie, anything to add to that?
It's funny because just last night we got an email from some dear friends that work in an Ivy League school, and their ministry is with grad students. It's all hospitality. So that just nicks everything. And so they just shared about that and how they're trying to figure out new ways to engage these students. Some are now going back to their home countries, very international focus. And after reading the letter, my husband and I thought, gosh, we need to pray for them. So it was a great reminder for us to pray.
That's good. Someone had asked about, if you have 100 plus partners, how does this work? So just wanted to touch back on that, like just do a handful at a time. Just do what you can and keep moving forward. Don't overload yourself. Don't make it stressful to connect. This should actually be a really joyful time, right, to connect with people and building those relationships. So just do what you can and be really mindful to only take on the conversations that you can complete. All right, we're going to do 5 more minutes, and so just get to whatever we can within these 5 minutes. The Holloway said, has anyone ever tried to have like weightlifting for donations per pound or running for donations per miles, et cetera? I think they're kind of thinking like, what are things people can do on their own where we're still raising money? I have very strong opinions about that, but Susie, do you want to start with any thoughts?
You go right ahead because we're probably on the same page.
I would say those are almost never effective at actually raising money. But they're fun, and it's a fun way to raise awareness, but not super effective at raising money. You'll get a couple hundred, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 if it's like goes really, really well. So you're much better off having one-on-one conversations and inviting people into a long partnership. Than trying to do kind of a more gimmicky fundraiser, t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's fun and it sounds like a good idea in theory, but as far as actually raising money, it's not a great way to raise money.
Other than the ALS challenge. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was a true, health issue need, for.
Yeah. And a massive movement, right? You got celebrities involved in that, and so that was very, very, very widespread. That's hard to do with something that's a smaller, like a specific ministry and Christians, right? All of those things kind of limit that pool a little. So I would say your time is typically, if funding is your actual goal as well as building relationships. In both of those, it's more effective to make it personal and have those one-on-one conversations. Because I could talk to one person, have $100 a month partnership that now has $1,200 for that year and continues beyond. There's just also don't add up when you're doing small things like that. Okay, let me skim. There was another one. Thinking about Facebook Live, I know we've done Facebook Live with clients for a while now, but what ways could you see people using Facebook Live to connect with their partners or potential partners?
Well, I could see it enlisting people to pray, because right now people are thinking about what's our world coming to. Also casting world vision. Giving an update on a specific country. Everybody's reading the news like crazy because they want to see what's happening. We're very global. So if you're overseas, sharing some unique things about your particular country, what's happening with COVID, and then what to pray for might be a really neat approach.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I actually had past clients who sent out an email early this morning to say, hey, join us tomorrow for a time of prayer. And so they're going to be on Facebook Live, or not, they're using a different platform where people can actually share as well. And so they're just like, hey, join us. So Zoom, is great. They've got a free version. I think it limits how many people can be in the space, and it limits your time. So there are some video platforms that the free versions, there are limitations. But I think the cheapest paid one for Zoom is like $15 a month. So well worth the investment for the next 3 months to have a space where you can have a bunch of people come on. You could have small groups that way, potentially sharing with a small group, right? Churches and small groups, a lot of them are meeting over video chat now. And so maybe see, hey, could I join your video chat and, take 5 minutes and just share a little bit. Take 10 minutes, whatever, the time you need, keep it short, as short as possible. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for using technology to bring people together from all over the world. Look at our call today. We're here together in this space, and we're from all over the world right now, and we're able to connect. So use these platforms to make those connections and invite people to be a part of it. But yeah, Facebook Live is great. But think about, do you just want to talk to people, or do you want to be able to hear people back? Right? Because Facebook Live, you're just kind of talking. People can type, in the chat, and you can see their messages. But it's really hard to be talking and presenting and managing a chat at the same time. So if you're going to do that, and you're single and you're the only person in your household, see if there's someone else that would mind being on and paying attention, to those chat messages, so they can be responding, because that makes a big difference. But yeah, use technology. We've got it. And it's a great way to connect and help people learn how to use it. I think Kylie mentioned earlier, don't just use something and be like, oh, sorry if you can't figure it out. Think about what's the best way to connect with this person. Maybe it is phone. Okay. You can get Skype credit for super cheap. Line 2 is an app that you have like a monthly fee. And if you have a US number, it ports it, right? Google Voice. There's so many things that are really cheap ways of being able to call people in a different country without it having to cost a lot of money. So figuring out what your options are, get out there and search. Someone had asked about connecting with churches. So we'll let this be our final question. Connecting with churches. What do you think are some good options for that right now?
Well, I think Kylie talked about this a little earlier. But, you want to be obviously sensitive first. And I do think connecting with churches, my suggestion would be do individuals first, honestly, and check churches later on, because churches are just trying to get their systems in place. So I probably would wait a little bit, unless you have churches that are partners, then definitely connect with them, because they're going to want to know how you're doing. But as far as new churches, I would probably wait a little bit and just really focus on individuals and families. I don't know, Jenny, if you agree with me.
Yeah, I think I would second that. I think church is going to be really hard right now. Now, if you've got, it depends, right? Like some churches that are already online, that could be a really easy, place to connect, because that's not a hurdle that they've had to overcome. Some churches that are really, really small, my church isn't even attempting to do online church. They're like, there's lots out there, go find it. I think you can find the encouragement where we're not even going to attempt to, do all of this. But yeah, I think just praying through that, but you're probably, better off just connecting with individuals instead of trying to start the church conversation right now.
And like for our churches, I don't know, like 800 or 900, and they only have very little office hours. The focusing on his video message, and then he comes in like just a couple hours at lunch. So even getting a hold of churches could be a bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us. It's a joy. Really, we're just so blessed and privileged to have this role, to be able to encourage you guys and hopefully lift you up and, get you connected back to the Father, what he says about our role, what his role is. He's got this. He really, really does. So thank you guys for being with us. We are going to share this link with everyone. We'll just send you an email. to let you know whenever this is up and ready, so that you can just forward that, share it on social media, post it wherever, get it out into the world, so that people can be encouraged to continue to build relationships and connect people to God's mission. So much. Bless you. Take care.